Welcome to Wrestling Over Everything, everybody. We are a very funny wrestling podcast out of Central Valley, California. I'm Andrew, that's Dusty.
Hey.
Subscribe to our podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. We're also on there. You know, we got video on Spotify. We also just straight up audio on Spotify. Whatever you want to do, dealer's choice. We're also on iTunes.
We like to give you a bevy of options by which to take in our content. You know, that's what we do for you. We're on the cutting edge of that, I think. What are there, 2 video podcasts?
Yeah, I think it's Rogan and Theo Vaughn. I think those are the only 2. We put out a video, Dusty ranting about AEW. Go watch that. And follow us on Blue Sky. What are we on Blue Sky?
WOE Wrestling.
WOE Wrestling on Blue Sky. And on Twitter, WOEW Wrestling. WOE_wrestling. Sorry, Dusty. I ate too much McDonald's earlier.
I wanted to get to this briefly. When you say you ate too much McDonald's, what does that entail for you?
I had 3 bites of McDonald's, probably. But no, I usually prepare my food before work, and I go to work with food. I like cooking.
Right.
When I don't prepare my food, I get stupid things to eat, and this was one of those days. I was like, you know what? I need some food. There's this mom and pop burger shop right next to my radio station that apparently I haven't been to for years because it's closed down.
That's a bummer. You've really been thinking about. You're like, okay, here's the backup plan. And then,
we're doing mom and pop spot. Yeah. And then everything's still up. Like, it looks open. And then there's a sign on the wall, on the door that says temporarily closed. And I was wondering why I never see anybody in the drive-thru. There you go. But, so I went to McDonald's. My problem at McDonald's is I always have to get chicken nuggets, period. Right. No matter what I get, unless I'm getting only breakfast. If I'm getting lunch stuff, or you can't even call it dinner. If I'm getting non-breakfast items at McDonald's, I have to have chicken nuggets. But I also today I wanted a Big Mac. So I went Big Mac, fries, because I have to get fries.
I remember you were very upset at me when you heard that on the value menu I go with 2 sandwiches instead of a sandwich and fries.
Yeah, it's very weird. You have to have fries with that. Like I have some because I'm a child. I have some nuggets in my freezer right now. I don't have a potato item in my freezer currently, so I don't have nuggets in my freezer. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
So I went Big Mac, fries, nuggets.
Okay.
And it was only a 6-piece, okay? But still, I feel like my brain's not working. And then I ate some sunflower seeds when I got home because I just didn't have enough salt before.
Right. Well, and you know, your body, you treat your body like a well-oiled machine. I don't think, or maybe you do, but you don't eat as much fast food as a general person. I don't think of you as a person that goes and gets fast food for the most part.
Not that.
So like that kind of thing will wreck your body. Like if you haven't had if you don't normally partake in it, it's because it's not supposed to be. That's not supposed to be food we eat. And look, as a big fast foodman, as people can obviously tell, I'm not judging anybody, but we're not supposed to have food that way. It's not supposed to taste that good.
Your body goes, "What's this?" And that's where my body is right now. And I also, full disclosure, I also had some Nerds gummy clusters when I got home. So
wow, you're just you're like training your body for anything. I watched a documentary about the hunt for Osama bin Laden. Right, that's on Netflix right now.
Everybody's watching this documentary. I watched the first episode; it was good. I haven't finished it, but every podcast I listen to, somebody's like, "Have you seen the Bin Laden dog?"
But they're talking to the SEAL Team 6 guy, and he's like, "We built a dummy facility, and they would configure it in every possible way that you could configure it because we didn't know what was going on inside of the compound." And they're like, we thought of every possible scenario where something could happen, and we ran through all of those so we wouldn't be shocked by anything that happened. I feel like you're trying to shock your system in a similar way. Like your body doesn't know what you're throwing at it. You know,
that's
McDonald's
100%.
sunflower seeds gummy clusters is nuts.
Keep it on its toes. The gummy clusters might be the greatest export in the history of the United States. They are the best candy. Everything else can get kicked in the dirt. Like gummy clusters, they figured it out. We don't need another candy. There's 2 types of texture. There's 2 types of flavor. It is genuinely heaven in a bag.
The crazy son of a bitch did it, you know. whoever thought they could try to put these 2 things together, they did. Guess what? I also had McDonald's today.
Hell yeah, what'd you get?
Because check this out. I went to the doctor, had a good checkup, decided McDonald's because I went to the doctor and I didn't want to. So to treat myself, I got 2 sausage McMuffins with egg and a Coke. That's my breakfast.
No hash brown.
No, because the sausage McMuffin with egg.
I'm losing it, dude.
You get 2 of them for $6. That's the economical way to go.
Remember when you and I used to go to McDonald's and they'd try to talk me into the second McMuffin, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. I will pay you to keep that second one. I don't want.
You're the bane of their existence.
Yeah,
because their upsell just won't work on you. Oh, real quick, I was getting upsold hard this weekend. Our washing machine broke, which sucks.
That does suck, yeah.
And so we had to call a guy to come out. It was like Sears repair people will send somebody.
Sears? I thought Sears was gone.
Sears is gone. The repair service, not gone.
What the fuck?
Because they work on everything. We didn't buy our washing machine at Sears, but they have like approved technicians that they just send out, right?
They're like the Japanese guys in the hills after World War II. The war was over.
Yeah, they're just floating around with their still holding their bayonet rifle.
You're gonna have to find their old assistant manager to come talk them out of the warehouse.
No, I have service calls tomorrow. I know I do. But the lady, when I was making the appointment on the phone, she's like, "Okay, it's $129 for this guy to come out," and I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, but that gets waived, you know, if parts and labor and all that. But if he comes and looks at your washing machine, it costs $129. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it costs what it costs. I can't fix it. So let's have this guy come out. But she was like, well, if you get the Sears home warranty, it'll cover all these items and knock $60 off. But we have a different home warranty already. So I'm like, no, I think I'm good. I think I'll just go with the $129. And she's like, okay. But also, you know, what about your dryer? You know, for $50 additional, we'll have them look at the dryer, see if there's anything going on with that. You know, like, no, I'm okay.
Maybe that breaks one day.
Yeah. Like, no, I think it's just, you know, I'll just take the washer for now. She's like, okay. And she's like, you know, if you get our other service, and I was like, no. I've made peace with $129. I'll pay $129. I don't want to have to talk to you anymore about this. How do
you feel about tamales?
Yeah. I've been passing around the office my kids doing a Marie Callender's fundraiser. I'll put you down for an apple pie. No, I'm doing okay. The guy will deliver it. He'll deliver it when he comes to look at your washing machine. No, I'm really doing okay.
It's a real good apple pie.
Yeah. Look, it's for any occasion, you know. Yeah. You don't have to have a birthday to eat this apple pie.
Sometimes you can just eat pie. People don't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just, and I know they have to, but it was so like by the third upsell, I was like, look, man, I already have to pay you this money. I don't want the other stuff. I want to live in the ignorant bliss that perhaps none of my other appliances will break.
That's my goal in life. Like, if radio doesn't work out and I got to go do something else at any point, God forbid, very soon, I don't want to do anything where I have to upsell.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything where I have to cold call. I don't want to do anything where I have to knock on people's doors. None of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to walk up to people that don't want me walking up to them.
Yeah, you immediately become everyone's enemy.
Oh, man.
Any person that knocks on my door to try to sell me something, I'm not buying it because you knocked on my door. Yeah, and I don't want to talk to you. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you? Have I talked about it on the podcast when a vacuum salesman went to my dad's house?
No, but I love this story, so go ahead.
So my dad, there's a guy who was selling carpet cleaners, and he came to my dad's house. And my dad, they always go, "Hey, can I do a little corner of your house just to show you?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, go ahead, come inside." They did the corner of the carpet, and my dad's like, "Well, it looks weird if just the corner's clean." And sat there talking to the guy while the guy shampooed my dad's entire living room, and then my dad got him out of the house.
He didn't know he was messing with the Ultimate Hustler.
No, you don't do that to Ricky. He sold used cars. He put in his time.
He knows that guy's thinking, as long as I'm in this house, there's a chance I can make this sale.
And he knows that the guy doesn't know Rick Idell. My dad wouldn't buy food if he didn't have to. He waits till he starts shaking. So, this is a wrestling podcast. We're going to get to our, as we've been doing every week in our non-deep dive podcasts, wrestler bios. I've got a fun one lined up. Dusty said he's got one as well. Who went first last week?
I think it was me. So why don't you take it this time?
Okay. I've got a pretty fun one. This is like a historical figure that I didn't know existed. The Iron Man of Moravia, the Bohemian Hercules.
Okay.
Gustav Fristensky.
I think your love of old-timey baseball really dictates who you look up in these things, because Gustav Selinsky sounds like an old baseball player.
Fristensky, bro.
Or Fristensky, yeah.
Well, have some goddamn respect.
Sorry.
Yeah, I love like old Hoss Radburn and like Skinny McGillicuddy and like But so, I'm just so fascinated with like turn of the 20th century entertainment and wrestlers and stuff like that. And well, I'm hoping to get a little bit more modern with some of the things that I find, but this guy is from the Czech Republic. At the time, it was part of Austria-Hungary, right?
Yeah, probably a cool time to be from there too.
It's so sick.
Yeah, my world history holds up.
So he was born. Yeah, some things happen with old Gustav. He's born in 1879 in a small village of Cactus Jack in Moravia, which was then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was a strong boy, very strong, like not just farm boy strong, just like this guy was a freak, right?
Yeah.
It started off, and his parents wanted him to be a blacksmith. So he's like training to be a blacksmith when he's like before his teenage years, or like right before his teenage years. And during a dispute, one of the guys that he was training with threw him what they called an incandescent horseshoe. So like a horseshoe, you know how when blacksmiths like beat the shit out of a piece of metal, it's like glowing hot.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this was like a think fast situation. And
what a terrible think fast.
Yeah, I know. It's the worst think fast of all time. Yeah. I can't think of a worse think fast. The Iron Man of Moravia. He's the Iron Man of Moravia. Of course, he caught this horseshoe and it fucked his hands up. So he ended up like, it took him a while to get over that.
Obviously,
I think he's at home with like 3 months. I see this. After 3 months of home remedies, his father decided to let him learn to be a butcher. All right, you can be a butcher.
I mean, it's still hot. There's still the possibility that someone could throw you something that's hot, but not incandescent horseshoe hot.
After a burn, somebody threw him a really hot bowl. I mean, after a dispute, somebody threw him a real hot bowl of soup.
Yeah, like it's probably pretty hot. It's not great, but it's not like glowing metal hot.
Yeah. Catch this ham hock. So he got sent to be a butcher's apprentice, and at 14 years old, he started working as a butcher's apprentice, and at that time, apparently, he carried sides of beef on his back with ease.
Hell yeah, dude.
And there's a lot of urban like myths and legends about this guy. He's a very famous guy in Czechoslovakia. There's a story that like he was working on a meat grinder and the meat grinder jammed, so he just like, you remember the mountain, what he did to Pedro Pascal in
Game of Thrones? Yeah.
And he crushed her head like this. Like that's basically what he did to this meat grinder. Apparently, he just grabbed it with his hands and squeezed it until it exploded. And that is it probably didn't happen, but that is how the story went, you know. So we moved to a place called Brno, Brno, which is, I mean, spell it differently. I don't know. And that's when he got into Greco-Roman wrestling. And in 1903, so he's 14, I guess. Let me see. No, he's 24. He became the amateur European champion, which was a big deal at that time. He got home and the butcher guy was like, "Go fuck yourself. You went and wrestled and left me alone. You're fired." So he's like, "Oh, I guess I'll be a professional wrestler."
You know, God closes the door, he opens the window.
Yeah. That's just how the world worked at that time. Oh, I guess I'll just be a famous world-renowned wrestler. So there's conflicting accounts. There is an account that says he was never pinned in over 10,000 matches. There is also like a handful of times he lost. So either way,
big win-loss.
The number everywhere I see is 10,000. Everybody talks about 10,000 matches. Some people say he never lost. Some people say he lost a few times. And most of the things that you hear about his losses were like either it was a work, like, I mean, he's a professional wrestler in the turn of the 20th century, probably a lot of works, or he hurt the guy and got disqualified, or there was one where he like threw his opponent out of the ring. Shout out to Tank Abbott, and he got disqualified. He had a multiple hour draw with Stanislaus Zbyszko, a man who I spoke about recently. One of my other breakdowns. It was in the early 1910s. It was considered a dream match. The best Polish wrestler versus the best Czechoslovakian wrestler. Hours of grappling. Neither man could pin the other, and it was regarded as the Clash of the Titans, with fans arguing for years over who had the upper hand during the match, which is pretty cool.
That's so crazy, like, because it had to be like butcher shops and stuff where somebody's like, I think Zbyszko had him, and they're like, bullshit, man. Like it's the same argument.
Shop, they're like, hey, catch this.
Yeah. It's like,
fuck you, catch this.
All the fan arguments are the same, just the locations and probably the level of smelliness has changed. You know, it's the arguments are as old as time.
You could get much more buck wild back in the day because there's no video. So like you can't go, see, look here, right here he had him, you know.
Right, yeah.
I remember he had a magic wand and then he pulled his wiener out, you know.
Until a bear showed up, Stanislavski had him.
Yeah. So my guy Fristensky did wrestle a bear at one point. We'll talk about that. Very funny story. At the European Championship in 1903, when he was 24, newspapers described him as unbeatable by mere mortals afterwards. Like, apparently this is just the strongest motherfucker who ever lived. He's one of the best singers, one of the best looking motherfuckers too.
Yeah.
There was a thing where there was a guy who was like publicly challenging everybody in a train station, like a bunch of money to anyone who could beat him in a wrestling match. Nobody knew that standing next to them was the goddamn Bohemian Hercules, and he just beat the fuck out of the guy and won and took all the money.
What a bummer for that guy. Yeah.
Oh man, it's fucking Fristensky. Scramble.
Yeah. They said he was dead.
Yeah. Here's a picture of this motherfucker, by the way.
Bohemian Hercules is a dope ass nickname, by the way.
Yeah, Bohemian Hercules is a great name.
Look, he looks crazy strong.
Yeah, he's the Iron Man of Moravia in Czechoslovakia. The Bohemian Hercules was like a international nickname that they gave him.
Okay.
This is a more famous picture. What the heck? My share button's not working. This is kind of a more famous picture of him. This is kind of how more, like, he straight up just looks like the Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks like he would be in like a Will Ferrell movie, and you'd be like, that's not a real person.
Yeah,
no real person has ever looked like that.
That's an old timey strongman.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you a question. Is it wrong to be strong?
You be the judge. Water-based lubricants, friend or foe.
Mm-hmm.
A few of the legends about Mr. Fristensky. He is said to have lifted a fully grown horse off the ground.
Oh shit!
There's either the horse was just standing there, or the horse was in a ditch, and he saved the horse. But
how do you?
Probably not true.
I was good. Well, how do you even grab it? Like, are you thinking like gorilla press above the head style?
I'm thinking like a squat. I'm thinking you got to do like a squat.
You got to get under. Yeah, you got to get under.
Stand up.
Yeah.
You know, at some point your hand's touching nuts, but I feel like that's how you got.
Yeah, you got to put them in the human torture rack. Is essentially.
Yeah, it's true. 100%. That's what I.
Yeah.
EF5 to horse. What was the other one? Oh yeah, it was the meat grinder was the other one, and then this is true. He wrestled a live bear, which was like a circus thing that everybody did back in the day.
Yeah.
And the story was this is how it was written. He eventually gently pinned it, and afterwards he said he felt bad for the animal, so he gave it some bread.
I think he worked that bear for the bread. Just let me pin you, dude. We gotta end it.
Bread, dude. I'll give you some bread, dude. Just him and a sad bear smoking a cigarette and eating bread together. And the bear's like, dude, maybe I do need to go back to school, man.
I've only got 12 credits left before I can become an accountant. That's probably a decent life.
I always said I'd do it till I lost. So this is where it gets like this guy becomes like a kind of a hero in Czechoslovakian lore. In World War II, if you know anything about Czechoslovakia,
are you talking WW2, the big one?
The big one, yeah, the big one. The Nazis showed up, just wrecking the party as they always did, you know.
Yeah.
Gustav and his wife Miroslava, because that's of course what his wife's name would be.
Sure.
Helped smuggle weapons to local resistance fighters. Their home in Littleville became a safe house for people fighting against the Nazis. I'll show you a picture of Miroslava. Yeah, there she is. Looks
a handsome woman.
Handsome. Looks a lot like Gustav.
Yeah.
He is reported. Yeah, he is also reported to have hidden Czech partisans and refugees from the Gestapo in his cellar. And him and his wife would distribute banned leaflets and newsletters supporting the Czech resistance and like spreading anti-Nazi material.
I mean, I like him. I liked him before. If you could bench press a horse and also fight Nazis, you're going in the Hall of Fame, dude.
I'm holding his drink.
Yeah. Imagine the leader of the Gestapo comes to this dude's house. Well, you know what? You're actually chill. Don't worry about it.
So they arrested him. The Gestapo got him. They got the Bohemian Hercules. I don't know how many of them it took. I don't know if they told them, hey, you're going to go arrest the Bohemian Hercules. I don't know how it went, but they eventually arrested him. Kind of tortured him. A little bit of torture. He was like hard interrogated. They were going to kill him. And he was recognized by one of the officers as this hero of wrestling, and they let him go.
Well, that's wow. I mean, I'm glad. That's crazy.
Yeah, he would have died. From what I see.
That's, I mean, yeah. I don't even know what to do with that. That's crazy. Yeah. Good for him.
So, things don't get much better for the Hercules because when the Nazis lost, the communists took over Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
those goddamn communists. And they considered him considered him quote unquote a wealthy, what was it, a wealthy pauper or something like that. What was the term? Not pauper, but it was just a wealthy poor guy. Like, then, God damn it, I can't remember what the word is, but they considered him part of the bourgeoisie elite. And what they did was they took all of his land. He had a small farm, modest farm in Czechoslovakia. They took all of his land, and he was forced to live in poverty. He sold vegetables and farmed and refused to talk shit about like the whole, the state until he died in, I think, the 50s. And he was like a hero in Czechoslovakia amongst the people, but the government like didn't think anything of him until 1989 when the communist regime fell, and now he is like a national hero. There's streets named after him. There's statues. There's a phrase to be strong like Fristensky in the Czech Republic. Yeah.
What a bummer, man.
I know.
I mean, and then, but like, I'm glad they got him back. He's like the people's champ. He's over there. But what a bullshit way to have to, go down. But
yeah, it's really annoying. But he it's a I don't even want to call it a Pete Rose situation, because Pete Rose fucking bet on baseball.
Right.
For him to not be recognized until he's been dead for 30 years really stinks. But
yeah.
crazy life.
They took his goddamn land and everything. Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I'm glad now they're doing, the best they could do for him, which is to, recognize him and name streets after him and stuff.
Yeah.
So what if his family got small residuals off of the Iron Man movies? Turns out he trademarked it, that would be sweet.
Stanley's like, fuck.
Yeah.
There's one of his statues.
Hell yeah, dude. These are parts of wrestling history that I don't know. I'm happy I know that now.
What a bad dude, huh?
Yeah, this dude sounds rad.
You went from Gustav Fristensky to the Red Rooster.
Wrestling is full of colorful characters throughout history. There's Tugboat and there's the Bohemian Hercules. It contains multitudes. All right. So last week I mentioned during our Sabu episode that I needed to do a deep dive on the wrestling promotion that Sabu wrestled Cactus Jack at in the match we watched.
Yeah,
so that
the one they wrestled at like some shitball dining hall at a casino in Vegas.
That's right. They wrestled for the National Wrestling Conference, which was started out of Las Vegas in October 8th, 1994. Founded by a guy named T.C. Martin, who was, guess what, Andrew? Radio personality.
Hell yeah,
he was a former sports radio host and had been a ring announcer for the WWF at one point. Now, he got together a bunch of investors in 1994 to start his promotion with the backing of Big Al Rodriguez. Need a Big Al. And it wouldn't be wrestling unless you had a colorful businessman, James Buffalo Bill Barrier.
It's always a Buffalo Bill, bro. I love it when there's a Buffalo Bill.
Always a Buffalo Bill. Now, at this point, there's a big void in wrestling. Like, the business is down. WWF is down. WCW is in the doldrums. There's some indie promotions. And it's mostly old WWF wrestlers. But you can carve out, if you put on good shows, you can carve out a little niche for yourself. This is like... and that's what he did. They held their debut show at Aladdin's Theater on the Las Vegas Strip, headlined by Tito Santana versus Terry Funk. And then that's the
hey, Chico Santana.
Okay. Chico, listen to me. Brutus Beefcake was on this show. The Sabu was on it, but he wrestled a guy named Bobby Bradley. Nails was on this show. If you'll remember, he was part of the WWF steroid trial where he said Vince McMahon tried to force him to take steroids, and then the prosecutor asked if he had any reason to dislike McMahon. He said, yes, I hate him. I'd kill him if I had the chance. something to that effect. So not a great state's witness, old Nails.
It's tough. Yeah. That's tough.
So this first show is successful. So they decide to move to the Silver Nugget Pavilion, which is like a bigger venue within Las Vegas. And that became their home for most of the time that they were around. So that is the show. The second show that they had, where they had it at the Silver Nugget Casino, is where we had the Sabu versus Cactus Jack match we watched, where we talked about last week. That got 4 stars in the Wrestling Observer for some shitball Nevada independent, It
was a sick match.
Yeah, it was good. They also made Tito Santana the first champion of the NWC. At the Silver Nugget Casino. So they're just getting a lot of good coverage. They're drawing a lot of fans. They drew 1,500 people for the Cactus Jack Sabu rematch. But like I talked about last week, it alienated some of the fans because they were there to see midget wrestling and the Junkyard Dog, and not the 4-star match that apparently was the cage match that Sabu and Cactus Jack had
between 2 wrestling heroes.
Yeah.
That's so Arkansas.
It's such a thing of the time where it's like people will show up to, like, Junkyard Dog hadn't been seen in a prominent promotion in like almost 5 years, and he had been washed for years preceding that. But they're
what is people's infatuation with this guy?
The Junkyard Dog?
Yeah,
he was very, very popular in the 80s in Mid-South wrestling. He drew really, really well for Bill Watts. He was very popular when he was in the WWF, but his wrestling was the shits at this point. But they're like 4-star classic, no thanks, Junkyard Dog. Definitely. He was on WWF TV. And Sabu and Cactus Jack were not. So
I didn't realize he's dead.
Yeah, unfortunately. Passed away in a car crash, which is a bummer.
Yeah, he's 45.
Yeah. So all of these things they're doing prompted Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer to call them one of the hottest indie groups in the country. But in February of '95, Tito Santana left the NWC and vacated their title. So they put it on Sabu. He beat Terry Funk in a Texas chain match that I bet was pretty good to win that title.
This is a banging ass wrestling promotion.
Yeah, things are going pretty well. They have a syndicated show that is sponsored by Allstate Auto and Marine Electric, KOMP, the radio station, and Ultrazone, a popular laser tag facility.
Hell yeah,
because it's the mid-90s, dude.
I bet that laser tag sucked ass.
Yeah, it's
none of the vests worked.
That's or they worked one time. Or you convinced? I had a laser tag set that was bought some crappy place, and I liked to convince myself that it worked.
Oh, I had one that it didn't even close to work. It was...
Yeah, and I'd be like, no, it tagged me. That's yeah.
No.
Problem. Old TC Martin. He starts wanting to be an on-screen character. It's you can see
love it. I love it.
You can start to see the cracks.
Yeah, the owner of a radio station that I kind of know somehow wanted to have a radio show at one point.
Yeah.
And the people that I know that aren't me were like, no.
He started hosting a segment called The Doctor's Office on their television show that was supposed to be a takeoff of Piper's Pit, but was not popular with the fans or the audience. And while the main events were being praised, they basically said the undercard matches were unwatchable. So
that's fucking awesome.
That like but they bring in Rob Van Dam, and he's in a tag team that's pretty fun. Like there's like in all these indie promotions, there's hits and misses, right? And it all depends on who's running the thing, and you're gonna have to suffer through some crappy wrestling because this guy has a lot of money to bring in Sabu and Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, but he's got to pay all those guys. So underneath, there's people getting nothing, ham sandwiches for pay, you know.
Oh yeah.
So in 1995, TC Martin gets a hold of the Ultimate Warrior to try to get the Ultimate Warrior to come in. And he was offering he was demanding, the Warrior was $10,000 for a single appearance. And this guy hadn't been on TV since November of '92 for WWF. Warrior hadn't. He got fired for failing a drug test, and but he still wants $10,000, while the top indie talent at the time was getting paid $750. You know, so but Warrior agrees to do it, and he's doing it as a favor to one of the guys that helps found it, and then for $1,000 and to start a wrestling school called Wrestler University or Warrior University. That's what it's called.
Ultimate Warrior is going to teach people to wrestle.
Yes.
Right.
That's where we're at. So
I'm gonna be a bodybuilding coach.
At their show where they drew 1,300 people, they had Sabu, Cactus Jack, Mr. Hughes, and Virgil. You know Virgil.
Rest in paradise, Virgil. I'm actually looking. I'm on TC Martin's website right now.
Yeah,
and he has a podcast. Have you found that?
I haven't found that. That's not in my dossier because I just looked up the wrestling company.
He interviewed Sabu in December for 48 minutes.
Okay, that could be interesting.
I bet that's an interesting conversation. Yeah. He also interviewed Virgil.
Of course.
Aja Wilson from the Las Vegas Aces, the current WNBA MVP. Mark Davis, the owner of the Las Vegas Aces and the Raiders. Flea, he got 6 minutes with Flea.
Yeah.
Mattress Mac. These guys, he's a radio guy now. He's a radio host now.
He's back. Yeah. Well, the reason he's back is because he promoted at this show the Honky Tonk Man coming out and basically wanting a rematch with the Ultimate Warrior for their SummerSlam '88 match, which is a pretty famous match where the Ultimate Warrior beat Honky Tonk Man for the IC belt, and the Honky Tonk Man had the record for the longest reigning Intercontinental Championship at that point.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Warrior beat him for that record. So,
I didn't know the Ultimate Warrior is the one who broke that record. Broke that streak.
Broke the streak, yeah. So the Ultimate Return does draw like a pretty big amount. It draws 2,000, anywhere between 1,250 and 2,000 fans. And like that made it one of the biggest indie shows of 1995. Like they got a lot of press and pub for that, but the Ultimate Warrior was pulled from his television debut because the WWF
did Vince make a call?
But yeah, he did.
Fuck, that sucks. All right, we gotta stop this, pal.
yeah. So
fuck. How did they do that?
Because
he was using the name.
The Warrior name was too close to the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh fuck!
So they sent him a cease and desist. I believe this might be why the Ultimate Warrior changed his name to Warrior legally, because then he's like, well, you can't trademark my name. That's my name.
Fuck.
But that's not the worst thing that happened to the old TC.
God damn it! I wish that was the worst thing that happened.
So in the
he got arrested by the Gestapo.
Yeah. On their Night of Champions show, they had Sabu versus Cactus Jack in a lumberjack match in the main event, which sounds pretty good. But on the undercard, they had Virgil's opponent, the Thug, come out dressed in a KKK hood. And then another man came dressed ran out during that match in a full KKK outfit. And that man was revealed to be Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Oh, fuck. Not the Anvil.
Yep. They beat up Virgil before rolling their KKK robes into a noose and hanging Virgil on the outside with it. Yeah. And then they decided to go ahead and double down. They went ahead and aired that on their TV show. The highlights of that angle.
Why? How much did the Anvil need money?
Anvil's in rough shape at this point. WWE has released the Anvil. So is WCW.
Was he a drug guy? Was the Anvil drug guy?
Yeah, he got busted for drugs.
That's the only... Fuck. Yeah, I'll do that.
KKK,
let's hang him.
Well, and then let's show it on TV. Let's not just do it in the arena. Yeah. Let's go ahead and not take the foresight.
Is this on YouTube?
I have no idea. I didn't look it up. So then Al Rodriguez starts experiencing financial trouble. So he has to pull out of his investment. And then, so TC Martin has to move the shows back to the Aladdin Theater as a result, which is a bummer. You're in the big room. Now you got to go back to the little room.
Is it because of the KKK thing?
Big Al. Come on, man. It's wrestling, Big Al.
It's fucked up, dude.
So
have a little sense of humor.
In a move that would definitely not be a problem, TC Martin and the Ultimate Warrior decide to go into business with each other. He brings in the Warrior as one of his investors. And would you believe it? Problems began to emerge in their relationship.
No fooling?
No fooling. He wanted to change the name of it to Warrior Promotions. And then he was supposed to go on the radio with TC. TC had set up these interviews for them. And 15 minutes before they were supposed to go on the radio, Warrior called him and told him that his car broke down while he was driving to Scottsdale, Arizona. And there's just so much stuff. Like Warrior misses more public appearances. And then he was supposed to show up to a match to wrestle Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and he no-showed for 1,400 fans. And they named Virgil as Jim Neidhart, or as the Warrior's replacement to wrestle Neidhart that night.
No.
So you're going from the Ultimate Warrior to no shade Virgil, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
then
Virgil got put in two lose-lose situations.
Right.
And the worst one isn't the one in which he got hung.
Then you figure, okay, if Virgil and Jim Neidhart go out and they try to put on the best match they could possibly put on, maybe this will satisfy the crowd, right? If you give them a great wrestling show, maybe the Warrior not being there won't matter. The main event went 2 minutes and ended in a double countout.
Oh, fuck.
Why would that be the finish?
Not even a single count out.
No, that's a double count out. Then turns out some fights broke out. Turns out the people in Vegas unhappy with the turnout of this show. So
that's fucked up.
It's like, so the Warrior said that he decided to end his relationship with them because he didn't get his half of $14,000 in ticket sales, which I don't know if that's true or false or what the case may be. But of course, after all of this, the company went out of business, which is a bummer, you know. Like
what?
So all these things conflate. We're talking from the end of 93 to the middle of 95. You've got great indie promotion, KKK angle, Ultimate Warrior. Those are things that are going to, two of those three things are going to kill your promotion.
Dude, Ultimate Warrior just seems like just an asshole. Like,
yeah.
It's just like as much as it was fun to watch him run to the ring and shake the ropes.
Yeah.
And that last appearance before he died was cool. Like the guy just seems like an asshole, like from pillar to post.
Yeah, he stinks. I mean, even if you discount all of his personal things, you know, it's like he just always seemed to just be in it for himself, you know.
By the way, I found video of the KKK match. I'm not going to show it.
Yeah.
What's fatter than an anvil? I don't know.
Well, I believe later on we might talk about. I believe Vince McMahon refers to Jim Neidhart as a rhino going into their match later on. So he TC Martin can't just let it die, right? 5 months later, he relaunches the promotion.
Okay.
And he's trying to keep it together, but nobody's really coming out anymore. And he's booking, you know, lots of guys. He's still got Sabu, he's got the Sandman, but there's just not enough money. Like that event was canceled because they don't have enough money. So they move out of Nevada into California. And they decide smartly, I think, like TC Martin, so I'm going to go to California, I'm going to restart. And the WWF is going crazy. They're doing all these raunchy angles in the Attitude Era. We're going to try to be a more family-friendly product, which I think is a smart move. You pivot, go the other way, right? Mm-hmm. Midgets and Junkyard Dog in spirit, if not in actual booking, you know.
It's funny that midget wrestling is the more family-friendly.
Well, I mean, compared to Val Venus, you know.
No, I couldn't. It is 100%. Yeah. Watch those guys go.
But he just couldn't get the financing together. Like it kind of just dies. It's not a fun. It's kind of like yours. It's not a fun end to this thing. He couldn't get a television show, and he couldn't pay the wrestlers, and that essentially is what killed the NCW. But I think it's, you know, it's an interesting little piece of history because he had a lot of guys come through there who were famous off of WWF's TV or had some up and coming stars. He was doing lucha early in the 90s, you know, having guys come from Mexico and doing lucha style matches. And for a minute he had it, and then he ultimately teamed with the Warrior, and I think that's what killed him. That and the KKK angle, obviously not great.
Yeah, we can't discount the KKK angle, but it's just, it sounds like if a couple things went differently, he wasn't gonna. I mean, you're not gonna beat Vince, but like he probably could have had a better run. Very interesting. I'm glad you did that one. That's a good one.
And just, you know, I like all the guys who are sort of spunky underdogs to Vince, just putting on shows. Putting on a wrestling show seems so fun to me, you know, like kind of a dream if you're just able to do the thing you love. Like you promoted one successful show, you're a hero, dude. You did it.
Yeah, I would love to put on a wrestling show. You know me. We're gonna do booking shows again at some point. But I would love to be involved in one wrestling show in my life. I want to be a manager, or I want to book the show, something like that.
Well, just remember, don't go the TC route. Put yourself on you know, it's always a harbinger of doom. Vince Russo wants to be an on-air character. Derek Bischoff wants to be an on-air character.
I'm gonna be on air.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna happen. Listen, it worked. It worked for Heyman. You know.
Yeah. There's lightning in the bottle a couple of times.
Worked for Vince too.
That's
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna pivot. So.
Oh yeah, I have a couple of quick news stories we could talk about, and then we can get to the match that we reviewed this week.
Okay.
Did you hear that WrestleMania has been moved, Andrew?
Yeah. I tweeted from the Wrestling Over Everything Twitter page. WWE fans are now seeing what UFC fans have been going through ever since Ari Emanuel bought the company.
Yeah, they had announced that WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans. It has been there a few times. WrestleMania 30, very famously, was from New Orleans. A good wrestling,
very cool ramp.
Very cool ramp. Good wrestling town. Cool town, like to travel to go to these shows. Not anymore. They're going back to Vegas, baby. And if that sounds familiar, it's because this WrestleMania in Las Vegas.
About a month and a half ago.
About a month and a half ago.
Las Vegas is currently, they're like the Saudis of the United States. They're trying to buy into everything, and they want every Super Bowl to be there. They want every WrestleMania to be there. I mean, it's cool for guys like you and I, because I'm like 5 hours from Vegas if I wanted to drive, right?
Yeah.
But you can't have WrestleMania in the same place 2 years in a row. You can't do it. This is anti-WrestleMania. I'm against it. I'm against it. But listen, the Ari Emanuel and his fucking TKO assholes are the reason that half of the UFC cards are awful and are in front of no fans
at the apex.
Yeah, and they try to explain to us that it doesn't matter if there's fans or not. You know.
Well, it doesn't matter to them. That's more money for them. You know.
It's crazy, dude. But anyway.
Yeah. So essentially. The rumor coming out of this that I don't know if it's confirmed. Essentially, the reason they switched it is because they made so much goddamn money at WrestleMania in Vegas this year, so they're like, "Let's do it again. We'll just run it."
From what I understand, is Vegas shot him a really big offer and was like, "Hey, how about you come back again?"
Okay, because that's essentially they're saying that, like you said, Vegas wants to host WrestleMania on all the years that it can't get something bigger, like the Super Bowl or the Final Four or whatever else. And it's because they have that what is awesome, the awesome stadium they have, obviously, but and Vegas is a destination city. Like, people go for vacations and stuff. This coincides with the other UFC thing that we have talked about before, which is if I'm so glad we went to the WrestleMania we went to, because it would be impossible for me to pay to go to WrestleMania now. The tickets to go to these big UFC events or these big wrestling events, they have priced a regular person out of doing that.
And that's how it is for, a lot of sports now. It's like, if you want to go to a World Series, if you want to go to any of those things, even a regular Dodger game is insane. And it's, I used to be Mr., people complain, oh, these athletes make too much. And I'm like, well, they're generating this money. Who else should get the money? Should the athlete get the money, or should the owner get the money? Because I think the athlete should get the money. Right. But now I step back and go, oh, shit, never mind. They don't have to generate all this money. They're offering these athletes these insane contracts, and then they're jacking the prices up to where me and my dad can't go to a game. Right. And back in the day, blue collar families used to go to to be able to go to a ball game and have a hot dog. And it's like your dad's a mechanic, but he could take you to the baseball game. But now it's like going to Disneyland. It's insane.
Yeah, that WrestleMania 9 documentary they put out, the guy who used to do event planning for WWF was like, I always wanted to put in a $25 ticket, like a $25 price point, so that people could go. The seats aren't great, but you can be in the building. It's affordable for 4 people to go to, for a family to go. You have to have that. And now, Sarah always talks about someday when the Bengals are playing somebody on the West Coast, maybe we'll go to a Bengals game because I've never been. And I'm like, dude, the likelihood that I would be able to afford, or we would be able to afford to go to that is insane. And if we could afford to go to it, I don't know that I'd want to spend the money to do it. It's so much money.
Yeah.
To go to like almost anything. And I want to be old man who shakes fist at cloud or whatever, but it's like, it makes it not fun if it's it's all rich people, or it's like somebody joked that like WWF should start their own credit union, because essentially you're gonna have to mortgage your house to be able to pay to go to one of these things.
I was gonna when they did. You remember when they did Old Chilla Desert Trip? It was like McCartney and Dylan and all these guys. I would have paid about what I ended up paying for just Blink-182 tickets to go to that.
Wow. And
see all those guys. And I was like nervous trying to buy those tickets. You know what I mean? And that's Roger Waters and Paul McCartney and
AC/DC, I think, was playing.
I think it was Roger Waters, Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan. I don't think it was AC/DC. I can't remember everybody who was there, but it was an insane lineup.
Yeah, I remember the day you were gonna buy tickets, you were in the queue.
Yeah, I went to Starbucks with like 2 computers, and I screwed up and like refreshed one of the computers and
knocked yourself out of the queue.
Ended up not getting it. The Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, Neil Young, Roger Waters, and The Who.
That's pretty sick.
And I paid the same to go see Blink-182, which was a really sick show, and I was on the floor. But still, that just shows you how much things have changed.
Yeah, so that bums me out. You know, like they're gonna make money hand over fist on these things, but eventually, that I think you'd have to imagine that bubble is gonna pop, because the people aren't making any more money, and if you just keep trying to bleed, you can't squeeze people for any more. You know.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like we'll pay it. Like And I don't, we don't have to go too far down this, but it's like, well, why manufacturing sucks now is because we'll still buy it. Like they don't have to make the shit out of metal anymore and make it like made to last, because we'll buy the one that'll break in 2 years. You know?
Yeah. I'll just I mean, I'll die anyway. I just won't go to the doctor. Who cares? But I'll be at SummerSlam, both nights of SummerSlam. So that was the big announcement. There was also a small piece of news that's a bummer. Rick Derringer, best known for like writing a bunch of songs. You know, he's best known in the wrestling world for having written "Real American" for Hulk Hogan and the Demolition theme song. He passed. I
didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the guy who worked with Weird Al?
I don't know if Rick Derringer worked with Weird Al. He was in a band.
I don't think it was, but Weird Al just posted that like one of his longtime collaborators died.
That'd be so funny if he worked with Weird Al and also wrote the
Rick Derringer. Rick Derringer produced his Weird Al's first 6 albums and played guitar on his earliest recordings, including the solo on "Eat It." He had an enormous impact on my life and will be missed greatly.
What a bummer!
What a bad motherfucker, dude.
He was also in a band called the McCoys that had some hits, and he wrote the theme for goddamn Demolition, maybe the best wrestling theme that's ever been.
And Real American, dude. Shout out to Real American.
Here Comes the Axe, Here Comes the Smasher. That's like that's a hit for days. So 77 years old. That's a bummer. Oh, he wrote Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
God damn.
Yeah, and
worked true goddamn American hero, huh?
And worked with both the Winter brothers, Edgar Winter and Johnny Winter. This guy rules.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
In this picture with Weird Al, he's wearing a shirt that says Rick Derringer. Hold on, dude, why is this? Instagram. Rick Derringer wearing a shirt that says Rick Derringer.
Hell yeah. That's
a shirt that says Andrew Idell on it.
I've got great news.
Weird Al is in that picture.
He played lead and rhythm guitar and produced all the gold and platinum records for the Winters, including Frankenstein.
Oh yeah,
that's fucking sick, dude.
This guy was just everywhere.
Yeah, I was just giving him his wrestling props. That guy sounds like he rules. So unless he did something terrible, which
you know what? I don't care. Yeah, Rick Derringer.
He was on InfoWars several times. That's kind of the worst that I'm seeing here. That's
fine.
Whatever.
Anyway, I don't like InfoWars, but that's fine.
Right. Wrote the theme song for Demolition. So
he produced Fat.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to. I believe this was number 37 on your list of matches everybody should watch. Right.
It was indeed number 37. Every other week, I'm having Andrew watch a match that's on a list of matches I made that he needs to see. This week we hit the Canadian Stampede from 1997, July 6th, 1997 to be exact. Calgary, Alberta, Canada at the Canadian Airlines Arena. Or the Saddle Dome is what it's called. This is Steve Austin, Goldust, Legion of Doom, and Ken Shamrock against the Hart Foundation of Bret and Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Brian Pillman. This has
normally I'd say too many people.
You would think, but
normally I would say that.
This has a special place in my heart because it takes place in 1997, the year that I believe pro wrestling was the greatest it has ever been.
Yeah.
I believe this is the peak year. So for a little bit of background, Andrew, this is a continuation of the Bret Hart versus Steve Austin feud that had been going since 1996. They've done the heel turn or the double turn at WrestleMania 13. So Austin is a babyface and Bret Hart's a heel. Bret Hart has reformed the Hart Foundation with his family, and they're taking on Steve Austin. And Austin has had a team with Shawn Michaels. He's been feuding kind of by proxy with Owen Hart and the British Bulldog over the tag team titles that they had because Bret was injured, had hurt his knee, so he was out of action. So they're keeping it alive, kind of mixing in the different members. And this is the big come together moment where all the baby faces from the different storylines have kind of decided to team up and take on the heel faction, except this takes place in Canada. So the whole thing's flipped because the Hart Foundation are the baby faces in this match.
Yeah, you're flipping a flip at this point.
Right. And it's my favorite thing in wrestling. I think Jim Cornette probably had a lot to do with this because he was on the booking committee then. This is like Southern Territory wrestling, Memphis wrestling, the way that they like to do things, where they have all their different programs with their single stars and their tag stars, and everybody's kind of loosely affiliated. And then you have a big match where you bring everybody together and everybody's got a story within the match. And I think that makes it so much so much better. And then just, this is a random assortment of baby faces, a random assortment of heels,
yeah, and this is, but it makes sense because they're almost coming together for their nations. They sang "Oh Canada." Was it the Farmer's Daughters?
The Farmer's Daughters that sang "Oh Canada." Yeah,
I missed it. Did they do the national anthem?
No, they just sang the Canadian.
Because I started at the Farmer's Daughter, so I didn't know if there was something before that. I can't remember. I haven't seen the show in a long time. But this, we've talked about this. My favorite pay-per-view ever.
Yep.
Throughout the show, throughout the night, you had Triple H and Mankind fighting back into and out of the arena, which is awesome. And it culminated in this like celebration of Canadian wrestling. Well, kind of like celebrating of the Stu Hart, like the Hart family, essentially, because the interesting thing is the Canadian side had two non-Canadian members. It had a British Bulldog and a guy named Brian from Ohio. So
yeah.
But this was executed. This whole thing was just chaos that was executed so well. This is what every more than 2-on-2 wrestling match wants to be, like aspires to be.
Yeah, and I think it's so. Of course, British Bulldog is married to one of Bret Hart's sisters, So that's how he becomes a part of the Hart Foundation. And then Brian Pillman wrestled in Canada, was in a tag team with Bruce Hart called Bad Company, and wrestled for Stampede Wrestling, which was Brett's dad's promotion. So he's got like affiliation sort of loosely.
He's got Canadian cred. Yeah. Is he a dungeon guy?
He didn't train in the dungeon, I don't think, but I think he did, I think Stu probably showed him some stuff, but I don't think he's an official dungeon guy. Okay. But I think it's just so interesting how everything kind of came together, because it felt like there was this big US versus Canada thing happening, and they seemed like they had a bunch of shows in Canada that corresponded with this. And then years later, I was listening to a podcast and they were like, well, we didn't go to Canada way more than usual. It was just now they had their own faction of guys to root for. So in America, Steve Austin is becoming the hottest babyface in the world. And in Canada, Bret Hart is still the most over guy. And so you have like that awesome dynamic that you're dealing with, and they really pour it on. Like at the beginning of this, they sing the anthem, and then they recognize Stu and Helen Hart, and then Bruce Hart is there being the coolest dude in the room.
Dude, that guy, man.
Wearing sunglasses inside. Man, he wants to be in this match so bad.
Oh man, I'm one of those guys. Yeah. I'm one of those guys, just so you know.
He actually they wanted him to be in the Owen spot when Bret and Owen originally had their feud. It was going to be Bruce Hart was what the office wanted. And Bret was like, it has to be Owen. Owen is you guys don't see it, but Owen is the guy to do this with. It is not Bruce Hart. So, and then they have each member of the babyface. They have each member of the babyface team come out. I guess the American babyface team. Goldust, Legion of Doom, Ken Shamrock, and then probably for the last time in history, Steve Austin comes out and is booed hellaciously, and he's so happy. I was laughing the entire time I was watching it, because as soon as Austin comes out, he's smiling because Canada hates him, like viscerally hates him, and you could tell he's so pleased with himself to be getting that reaction.
And he's doing his thing that he always does when he comes out, and he's like talking, and you could see him call him like motherfucker, shove it up your ass, like all that stuff the whole way down, and he is just having the time of his life. He's like, I'm making so much money right now.
I'm gonna make so much goddamn money.
All you motherfuckers, you guys are gonna be real pissed when I leave this place.
Yeah. And then they have every member of the Hart Foundation come out in like ascending order of what the pop's going to be. So they have Pillman come out first. He gets a pretty decent reaction.
He got a pretty good pop.
Then they have Neidhart come out. This is where Vince calls him a rhino. Then the British Bulldog comes out with Diana Hart, who's been elected Mrs. Canada or something to that effect, which I didn't actually look up if that's a real pageant you could win or not. But if it's wrestling, it's the thing that I love, because it just adds who's going to check. It's 1997, you know.
She's Miss Canada. Go fuck yourself.
Then they have Owen come out, and like we can talk about him more, but goddamn, do I love Owen. He comes out with both his slammies. He's so happy to be there.
She was 1997's Mrs. Calgary Stampede.
Okay. That's
so I'm guessing that was fake.
So and then of course Bret comes out and the place fucking unglues for Bret, because this is also his first match in 2 months. And they do everything right. Like they have them all get in the ring and they all face off with their mirror image guy, right? So it's like Bret and Steve, and then Goldust and Pillman. All the guys that have had the issues with each other are facing off, and this is like the big culmination. And I have to say, like, the match itself doesn't blow me away. It's a good wrestling match, but 10 guys is an ungangly amount of guys to have in a match. But the magic of all of it together makes it special.
Yeah, the magic. It was like they immediately gave you what you wanted. Like a lot of like multi-man matches, the big tag team matches, they would have like kept Brett and Austin away from each other for a little bit. And then you get to like nowadays, that's what they do. And then you get the moment where Brett and Austin are in the ring together and they're staring each other down. And then either like sometimes they hook up at that point, but sometimes one of them tags out, like the heel tags out, and then it waits for a while before they immediately Bret Hart just starts getting heat on Stone Cold, just starts beating the shit out of him, and I love that. Got the crowd going like crazy. My favorite part of this match is it's two things. It is Stone Cold gets Owen Hart in the corner on his back and starts just slamming his knee into the turnbuckle. I mean, to the post, right?
Yeah.
And is just taking Owen out completely. So they declare Owen out of the match.
Right.
He's definitely not coming back, right? And then a little bit later, they're like, they're beating the shit out of Stone Cold in the corner. They keep to like kind of retaliate. They keep throwing him in the corner, and then all the Canadians are just beating the shit out of him. And then at one point, Brett grabs Stone Cold's leg, pulls him to the ground from outside the ring, like trips him down to the ground and drags his ass to the corner and does exactly what he did to Owen. And it was just such a huge, like, awesome, cool moment. And then and then you could tell like Brett did a really good job of like showing rage, because he's like slamming his knee into this post, and then he just throws him into like a figure 4 around the post,
which is always a cool spot. I always really like that. Like, it looks vicious. Yeah, it looks vicious, and it's like, I think Austin hits Owen with a chair while his leg's against the post, and they have to take Owen out. And then it's 5-on-4 for the US team, and then they figure 4 Austin around the ring post, and Charlie Murphy up his legs, and so then he's out. But even that dynamic is flipped, because it's like Owen Hart is the brave babyface who's been taken out by this dastardly heel, and and whenever he comes back, spoiler alert, he's like the returning conquering hero. Like, that's
the Prince is back.
That's a classic babyface spot, but it's in this match for Owen Hart because they're in Canada. Like, and I thought that was so smart and so funny to see that whole dynamic flipped. And then the other thing in this match that I think is really cool is you get to see like some weird matchups that you would otherwise never see. Like Bret Hart versus Ken Shamrock for a couple minutes was really cool and looked cool. Like they never had an official match that was of any consequence in the WWF, but like for a couple minutes I was like, oh, that would be cool. Like the style of that would probably be cool. I could see them.
Shamrock was like on top in a dominant position, and Bret from the bottom like begged off, and Shamrock was conflicted and lets Bret up, and then Bret gets the upper hand like immediately. So he like used his cunning against the guy he used like his veteranship, the veteran nature of his wrestling knowledge against this brute who had been in all these no holds barred, like in a way that kind of puts Ken Shamrock's fighting acumen over, while still putting Bret over as the superior professional like wrestler,
Right. Like Shamrock is inexperienced in the pro wrestling arena. Is part of the story, and Bret's the cunning, or like the cunning veteran who knows all the tricks and all the ways to cut the corners and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so like that was cool. The Brian Pillman in the ring with the Legion of Doom, which never really happened. That's like
fucking psychopaths, all of them.
Yeah, Animal in this match. I sent you a text. Animal is so fucking jacked.
Yeah, he's a monster
in this match. Like his arms are gigantic. It's crazy.
God damn it, I miss Animal.
Yeah, they're and it's just such an interesting like matchup styles and characters, and everybody's over, and the crowd couldn't be more into it. They work it really smart, and then in the end, of course, Austin comes fighting back. Right, they can't keep Austin down, and he returns for probably again the last time ever to booze. He comes out and everybody starts booing him, and then Owen returns, and the crowd fucking goes crazy for Owen.
Owen's return was so perfect because Austin comes back. Austin comes back and he limps up the ramp. He limps down the ramp, gets up into his corner, calls for the tag. He gets the tag from Goldust, and then he gets in and he's doing his Austin shit, awesome stuff. And then I think it's there where him and Brett are just beating the shit out of each other. And there's a moment where Brett and him are just sitting there like exhausted and fucked up, and then they start fighting again. And Brett starts to put him in the sharpshooter, and somebody breaks it up. I think it's like Animal or somebody breaks it up, and then Austin puts Brett in the sharpshooter, and it's a perfect camera angle from the opposite the opposite side of the ring from the ramp, where you see Austin have Brett in the sharpshooter, and you just see Owen limp his ass all the way down like towards the camera down the ramp to come and stop it. It was just a perfect setup. Like, that's where WWE has always differentiated themselves. Like, they always find that camera angle, for the spots that come through, and
they never miss the camera angle. You're never oh fuck, if only I had seen that. That'd been cool. Yeah, they planned that perfectly, and then they're outside of the ring, and Austin's a lunatic. So there's a big schmoz where he starts fighting with Bruce, and then he goes to grab
Stu.
He goes to grab Stu, and then everybody freaks out. And I think Ross, one of Brett's brothers, and maybe one of the other brothers, hop the rail, and Austin's trying to fight all these guys off. Then Austin's team comes over, and they're fighting off the Hart brothers at ringside. Brett throws Austin into the ring, and he starts jawing with the guys outside, and Owen runs up behind him, scoops him, holds the tights because he's still a heel, and gets the pin. And the Hearts win because truly there's no other finish to this match. Like,
no, the
Hearts it was a perfect finish, but because there's no way. Yeah. And it's great for their team. Like,
putting you didn't need to put Stone Cold over as a heel anymore. He was going to be as hated as a 10 in that building, no matter what. He's not going to be a heel when you go back. You have to give these fans what they want. There's no other way to do that.
Yeah, and it also like reinforces like the Hearts are a unit. The guys that they're facing, while they're formidable, are not a team, and so they don't work cohesively. Austin's too caught up in his hatred for the Hart family to realize that he's about to get beat. And then Owen still cheats to win because Owen cheats. Ultimately that's what he's going to do. So they end up winning. And then there's a big schmoz afterwards where a bunch of the Hearts jump in the ring, and they essentially powder the Legion of Doom, who've never powdered in history. Like the baby faces have to leave sort of with their heads down in defeat. And the Hearts are like, okay, cool, we did it. Let's celebrate. And then Austin, like a maniac, returns by himself, and like 12 dudes start beating the shit out of Steve Austin.
It is literally a giant dog pile on the Texas Rattlesnake in the middle of this fucking Canadian ring.
And if you're sitting at home and you're in America where you're already predisposed to love Steve Austin now, you're like, fuck yeah, dude, this guy doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He's the best. American badass Steve Austin is going to try to still get, he hates the Hearts that much that he doesn't care.
Stone Cold's on the bottom of that pile going, I'm so rich right now. I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to retire and just take pictures of my cats with my millions of dollars.
I'm going to sell so many goddamn t-shirts now. And so then
I might be the richest man in Canada right now.
Then they handcuff him, which I think is the first time that Austin is ever handcuffed, like in a
Nobody
wrestling
looks cooler
angle.
in handcuffs.
No, and then he's walking up the ramp and he bends down so he can double finger the ring, double middle finger the ring. Still, like
it's double finger in the crowd, and like
it's awesome, and he's having the best time. Like Steve Austin always said, he liked being a heel better. He turned babyface out of necessity and saved the WWF.
People loved him too much.
Yeah, but like just and for this crowd, you could do anything. This is the best crowd to work in front of, whether you're a heel or a babyface, because they're going to cheer.
Seem like that crowd seemed like they were, even when they were booing Austin, they seemed like they were having the time of their life. Like, that is a crowd, that is a top 5 wrestling crowd that I would choose to be in history. Like, if you could sit there and be like, I want to be in that crowd when that happens. Like,
oh yeah,
we should do that segment one day. Like, where do you want to? What crowd do you want to be in? Because like, what's better than that, bro? A bunch of Canadians for the Hart family, and then Stu gets in the ring afterwards, and like all that shit. Like after this just utter chaos, the coolest shit. Like at one point when Stone Cold had Owen on the post, somebody threw a full beer in his face. Like, and that's the only time I saw him get anything thrown at him. But just a full beer just splashes in his face. And then when he's getting out of the ring, when the whole fracas is happening and he's in handcuffs, somebody kicked him in the head. I don't know who it was. It was probably Bruce Hart.
Yeah,
somebody kicked him in the head.
He's trying to work an angle with Steve.
Maybe we get a program going.
Yeah, we'll get a return match out of this. Yeah, I think this is awesome. It's just one of the coolest matches to see atmosphere wise. Like I said, there's a bunch of big stars in it. Everybody has a storyline going in. If you're interested in that kind of storytelling, like this gets a 10 out of 10 from me. This got 4.25 stars from Dave Meltzer, which is pretty good. But like, I don't know how to give this anything but 5 stars. Like,
I don't either.
I don't know. What's
more effective than this?
Right, and it's like, again, it's not I mean, it's a great wrestling match in the totality of what a wrestling match is, but the work is fine. It's not crazy, but like atmosphere, storytelling, the match work, it's a 5 out of 5. It might be a 4-star match, but that crowd makes it a 5-star match.
And the storytelling, like, what's better pro wrestling than this? Like,
right.
In terms of like pro wrestling, I guess, like, what is pro wrestling other than the way it makes you feel? And like, what makes you feel more than a match like this, where, goddamn Stone Cold Steve Austin is getting a mud hole stomped in him by a bunch of Canadian guys in the middle of the ring voluntarily. He came back for that ass whooping just so he could get a few more licks in himself.
Like Andrew said, this is a really famous card. The lowest rated match on this card is 3 stars, which is Triple H versus Mankind, which is a hell of a lot of fun.
It's so much fun. It's a double count out, and they just keep fighting the entire show.
There's a 4-star Great Sasuke Takamichinoku match, 3.25 for The Undertaker versus Vader, and then the main event 4.25. But on the Wrestling Over Everything scale, I think we're double 5-star.
That's a 5-star, and the best thing about this pay-per-view is it's like an hour and 58 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
And there's not a bunch of bloat. There's not a bunch of horse shit that you don't want to watch. Chronic doesn't show up. It is just like the Godwins wrestled in the dark match. Like, I can't remember who they wrestled against. Like, sure, whatever. But that's not on the pay-per-view. This is a short pay-per-view. I think pay-per-view should be shorter, but they have all these sponsors that they have to, and the people in the building don't want to pay for a 2-hour show. I understand that. Right. You know what I mean? I can't really get mad at that. So, but I have two things I want to talk about. First of all, Brian Pillman dies like 3 months after this match.
Yeah.
And then Owen's dead like 2 years after this match.
Yeah.
And then Davey Smith is dead like 3 years after that.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Like, just bang, bang, bang. And Neidhart lasted until 2002. No, 2000, like, it was like 2016 or something like that. Neidhart died.
Okay. I don't remember exactly, but that sounds close
I'll
to
look it up. I think that's
yeah.
about what it was.
Yeah, I think it's a 10-man
2018.
tag. Okay, it's a 10-man tag. There's
6 of them are dead.
Well, so on Brett's side, it's
4.
Brett is the only living member of his team.
Oh yeah, so Pillman's dead, Owen's dead, Neidhart's dead, Davey Boy's dead.
Yeah, and on the babyface side, both members of the Legion of Doom.
Both of the members of Lot are dead, so that's 6. 6 out of 10 people in this match are dead.
Yeah, which is a huge bummer. Like
it's crazy.
Because
it was. This was 28 years ago.
Yeah,
because you guys know the athletic prime.
And like I didn't want to talk about it a bunch, but it's tough as a Brian Pillman fan. I have a Brian Pillman episode down the line that I'm planned, because at one point he was one of the best, most innovative wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
And you could just tell, like, this is after his car crash where they had to fuse his ankle in a walking position so he could even walk. Like, he just can't move. And like, he's doing the best he can. I was watching his work going, he's coming up with innovative ways to kind of make the ring easier for him to move in, and for him to not have to, have to run across the ring as much. But it's just, you can tell it's really hard for him to wrestle. And
he's not very old, right?
No, I believe he died when he was 37, 38.
35.
Or 35,
Pillman,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
35, yeah.
But he had it was a heart condition, which they thought was, I believe they said it was a birth defect, but it was exacerbated by like steroid use and drug use.
Steroids and drugs, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what got Davey Boy.
And Eddie too.
Yeah, and Eddie. Like, well, and pretty much every fucking wrestler ever. But
Eddie's 38 when he dies. That's insane. It just sucks.
Yeah.
But
it sucks.
It's tough to see Pillman like that, especially, like I said, if you watch his WCW stuff. Like, at one point, he was just a really great wrestler.
Yeah, and Bulldog was 39
when he passed away.
Yeah,
yeah, and British Bulldog too. British Bulldog is bulked up a lot here, but he used to be.
That's a certified big fucking dude.
He was one of the best junior heavyweights in the world, for a long time. And it just a lot of steroid use and drugs,
and that's just the wild thing. I mean, Neidhart died because he had a seizure, so who knows if that had something to do with wrestling,
Right.
And it's like, but the other one, which I should have done the first. I don't know which one I should have done first. Can you imagine the party that these guys had after this match? You've got. Because Brett's not I don't think Brett was a big partier, right?
No, I think he would go out and drink a little bit with the guys. Owen, notoriously not a partier.
But you've got Pillman, Neidhart, Davey Boy Smith, the Legion of Doom, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dustin Rhodes. These are some crazy motherfuckers.
Plus, you got the Undertaker there. Vader's probably in for a good time,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The Godwins, you know the Godwins are getting down.
Yeah, and this was just, it was already a big party. It was a big party for the Hart family to recognize Stu, and obviously there's a lot of things that Vince did, particularly to the Hart family, that is obviously terrible. Like, even just business deals he broke with Stu and didn't pay him for things and all of that shit. But this was nice. Like, it was cool that they did it, that they turned it into sort of a tribute for Stampede Wrestling.
And then the screw job is August, September, October, 4 months later.
Yeah, Brett is currently on his 20 years, you'll work for me forever, be an ambassador once you retire contract.
Yeah.
And in October, Vince is like, hey, guess what? I can't pay that contract. I could pay that contract, but I'm not going to pay that contract. They put the belt on Bret Hart the next month. He wins the WWF title, so, and like I said, this is the type of wrestling storytelling that I really enjoy. So the British Bulldog and Owen Hart had been the tag team champions for a long time. And the May In Your House pay-per-view, they had wrestled the Legion of Doom for those tag titles. So the Legion of Doom are in this match partially because they've already got heat or like a program that's sort of been going with Owen and Bulldog. And then coming out of this at SummerSlam the next month, Goldust faces Marlena. The British Bulldog faces Ken Shamrock, Steve Austin, and Owen Hart, and then Bret Hart and The Undertaker. So it's like a lot of these feuds continue coming out of this, and they had issues going into it also. And I just really, that type of wrestling storytelling over many, many months, where you mix up the match types and you mix up the rotation of the guys that are in it. It's just perfect. That's the best type of wrestling storytelling to me.
Yeah, and everybody can work, and the right people got the title, and it wasn't the same people facing the doo-doo all the time, and like there was just it was this is where like this is wrestling at its best in my opinion. Like in terms of what we've seen. Like I can't wait. One thing I want to do with this iteration of our wrestling show is I want to figure out how we can watch like old territory feuds. Like if we could find enough footage to have like a really good, like we did a really fun episode on the Von Erichs, but I'd love to watch like a chunk of Von Erich versus Freebird like stories, but I just don't know if all that footage exists. But I'd love to find some old territory, like in, like I said, in a dining hall, just crazy heat type stuff.
There's some stuff playing down the pipe, for those kind of things. The hard thing is that there some of it is not easily found, or like there's a long time between shows. So then
it's hard to find chronological stuff.
Yeah, but this, of course, also the next month is where Steve Austin famously is too goddamn low, and Owen Spike power drives him. So this was one of
God damn it, dude. This was one of Brian Pillman's last matches. This is one of Stone Cold pre fucking getting his neck accordioned matches.
Yeah.
This is one of Bret's last matches in the WWE. Like, imagine if those three things hadn't happened,
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it in that way. That's interesting. It's like a nexus point of all of these different things that could have happened, and if they would have spiraled a different way, who knows what would have happened.
Well, and Bret's huge. Bret's on top of the world. Everybody knows Bret. Bret's a superstar at this point. But like, you got to think that the heat in this match maybe influenced Eric Bischoff, maybe influenced like certain negotiations. Like Bret Hart was like, "Did you see what we did in that arena? Like, give me more money, you ass, and stop pooping on people's heads," And he's like, "I'll never stop pooping on people's heads, huh? And I'll never get caught for it either. And I'll never have a mustache.
I'll definitely never not be in charge of my own company."
Yeah.
I think it's like there was no way, because at this point the ball is rolling downhill. Like Steve Austin is the next guy, unequivocally. The interesting thing to me is, what do they do with Bret and Shawn if Bret's not leaving?
Yeah,
because they put do they still put the belt on Shawn to drop it to Austin, or did that happen because Bret was leaving? And if Shawn doesn't have the belt, he doesn't wrestle the Undertaker in that casket match, doesn't fuck his back up, and isn't gone for 4 years. And
smile intact.
Right, yeah. What does Bret Hart do in 1998 in the WWF? Like, what
is the WWF maybe better off because they could focus on people? Because I'm not saying anybody would be better off without Bret Hart, but if you think about it, like Stone Cold was going to the moon no matter what.
Right.
So like I think Brett probably would have been fine. They probably wouldn't have been better off. But there's a scenario where like Brett kind of gets lost in the weeds because listen, what do they do? What does the Attitude Era do with Bret Hart? Like, does he start coming out with a towel on and like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
so
well, and then, there is a lot of credence given to the idea that like Brett goes to WCW. So there's a top spot open. Shawn gets hurt. So now there's another top spot open. So Kane takes a top spot. Mick Foley gets a top spot. Now The Rock has a spot where he can go because you're not moving Bret Hart down the card. Even if he's not the champion, he's got to be involved in stuff. You're not moving Shawn Michaels down the card. Plus, Shawn Michaels has all of his other issues. If he doesn't go away and there's no Jesus Shawn Michaels when he comes back, he's just being a dickhead for 4 more years because he didn't want to drop the belt to Austin. And Austin is the biggest, is the guy. There's no question about it.
You dropped the belt to.
Right. And he still didn't want to do it. He was still trying to negotiate his way out. Like, it's crazy. So it's like it's unfortunate for those guys. Obviously, Shawn and Brett had a lot of stuff to go through, but like with the wrestling part of it, it clears all these avenues for the WWF to start to succeed. And that's really interesting. So this is kind of we talked about last week with Sabu, kind of a bridge. This is also kind of a bridge where, because you lose through many different ways, like Pillman, Neidhart, British Bulldog are all gone by the end of 1997. So then, because Bulldog and Neidhart go with Brett to WCW, so they're gone. And then the LOD are diminished down after this.
Owen completely loses his identity eventually,
Yeah, so it's interesting as a snapshot. It's a great single match. It's great if you consider it in the totality of the Brett and Austin feud, because this is also the last time that Brett and Austin have any interaction.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess because
SummerSlam happens. Then
who does Austin wrestle at SummerSlam?
He wrestles Owen.
Oh, is that the Too Low?
That's the Too Low.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
So, and then
you sack of shit. I was gonna make so much goddamn money.
They still sell T-shirts when I'm gone, right? Well, and that's
Austin
also
316 says I just broke my fucking neck. You son of a bitch.
Well, and then that's where they start having Austin. He can't wrestle, but they start having him come out, and he starts Stone Cold Stunnering all of the officials. And he starts doing the Steve Austin ancillary things. He's not wrestling, but that's in September's when he stuns Vince for the first time, and then he stuns Sergeant Slaughter. He's coming out and cutting promos about how he doesn't care if his neck's broken. Like, they kept him on the show because he's the hottest thing on the show, and not wrestling actually got him over more. The cops arrest him, all this shit. Obviously, you would rather not.
Trucks.
yeah. You'd rather not have him get power drived and break his neck. But that also because they pivoted, they found a way to still use him and get him more over, for when he came back.
Yeah, and thank God he had a finisher that he could do with a broken neck. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm sure it didn't cause any back problems that he might currently have.
Listen, he just got his life is beer and cats now.
That's right, and God bless him for it. The rattlesnake,
God bless him. Yeah.
All right, that's gonna be it for us for this week. Next week, Andrew, I hate to say it, I'm keeping us in 97, my friend. Because we have to watch the Wrestling Observer Feud of the Year from 1997, Diamond Dallas Page versus Randy Macho Man Savage.
Ooh.
Oh, brother.
Oh, man.
So like Andrew said at the top, thank you everybody who listened. Thank you everybody who watched. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week because like Canadian Stampede, we're the best out there.
Suck our balls.